Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam and you're watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I want to tell you about my 10 favorite horror movies currently available on Amazon Prime. And they're going to cover a wide range of subgenres, from old school movies that you've probably never heard of, to some funny horror movies, to just some absolute classics. If one of your favorites does not make it onto this list, it might be because it's on one of my previous lists, but I'll put links in the description to those as well. Starting off this list at number 10 is an old cult classic from the 70s, directed by Dan Curtis, starring Carrie Black, and it's actually an anthology movie called Trilogy of Terror. Now this one's really cool and it's got a cult following. Like I said, if you've never heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. It's almost sort of a rite of passage. Like if you're a horror movie fan and you're wanting to go deeper down the horror movie rabbit hole, this is a pretty good place to start. Now Carrie Black actually stars in each of the 3 stories in this anthology as different characters, which is kind of cool, and I'll say they are a little bit slow, but each of them ends really, really well, with the last one just having a really, really fantastic ending. You may have seen images or little clips of this movie, specifically the doll with the really sharp teeth. If you have, this is the movie that is from, so I definitely recommend checking it out if you're in the mood for an old school anthology flick. One of the newer movies on this list is called House LLC. Now this one is a found footage movie, and just like most people, I'm pretty burned out on that genre, but this one is really, really good. I liked it a lot. It does something a little bit different in the sense that it starts off like a documentary about an event that happened at a haunt, which is essentially an elaborate haunted house. They're set up in every city around the country during Halloween time. And at this one, some sort of tragic event takes place. It's sort of explained to us in the beginning through various interviews, and then they basically get right into the movie, which is the found footage of the event. And it's essentially this crew setting up for this haunted house, and things begin to go wrong. Weird things begin to happen. It's done on a very low budget, but they made very, very good use of no money. But I had a really good time with this one, and I know a lot of you have as well, because I've seen you talk about it in the comments. Now number 8 is really one of the better films on this list, but it barely squeaks in as a horror movie, but I had to put it on the list, and honestly, I've wanted to talk about it for a while, and I just had a hard time finding a list to put it on, but that is The Girl with All the Gifts. Now this one is a zombie movie unlike any other zombie movie you've ever seen. It takes place sometime after the zombie apocalypse or the outbreak or whatever you want to call it, and I don't want to give too much away because the beauty of this movie is you're not really sure what's going on throughout the first third of the movie or so. It's kind of a mystery. There's very odd things. This is based on a book, and it's fairly true to the book, so I recommend checking it out. Don't expect to really get scared like you would in a horror movie. That said, it is a really, really good zombie movie that a lot of people have missed. Probably the most popular movie on this list at number 7 is The Woman in Black. There's a sequel, it stars Daniel Radcliffe, huge theatrical release, and it's basically a by-the-book horror movie, yet it's got kind of a throwback vibe to it. It feels a little old school, yet it's nice and polished and beautiful with all the new equipment and new cameras. But for that reason, I liked it. It's a good little haunted house type of a movie, and it didn't overreach in my opinion. It did a good job with what it was supposed to do, and it feels almost kind of like a classic movie, similar to some of the movies that are coming up. So if you're in the mood for something a little bit more polished than what I have coming up further on this list, then The Woman in Black is a really good way to go. My number 6 pick is a movie called The Monster that came out just a little over a year ago. Basically a straight-to-streaming type of a movie, but it's fairly good. It's a basic concept. It's a woman and a child trapped in a car on a deserted road, and there is some sort of creature outside trying to get them. In that sort of like sub-genre, that sort of creature feature, this one's really excellent. It really builds dread in a good way. It's a short ride. It could have maybe played a little bit stronger as a short story. in the sense that it does stretch out that 90 minutes a little bit, but it's really well acted. For the most part, the visuals are really convincing with maybe one or two exceptions, but I enjoyed this one enough. I almost rented it when it came out and I waited for it to be free. Honestly, had I paid $5 to see it, I would not have been disappointed. If you like this type of content, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure to click that little bell icon, because it's the only way YouTube is going to notify you when I have new videos out. But I put new videos out just like this one at least 3 times a week. Now on the lighter side is really one of the just more unique, kind of funny horror movies I've seen in a long time. It's called Crush the Skull. And I know for a fact most of you have not seen it. This one's extremely hidden. I took a big gamble watching it because the trailer did not look that good, but I saw a promise in it, and I'm glad I went for it. I ended up watching this one twice in a period of about 24 hours. I liked it that much. Super low budget. You're very aware you're watching a movie. The acting's not that great. It's good enough, but it's not that great. But it's so funny and it's so well written, and it doesn't necessarily play out like a comedy, but there's enough beats in it. Like the comedic beats come as fast as any comedy, yet it is a horror movie. It is about some people trying to burglarize a house. They get trapped in the house and they have to find their way out, and they sort of keep going deeper and deeper into what appears to be a dungeon. And it's just, like I said, it's got really funny moments on it. Go into this one with low expectations and you're going to be pleasantly surprised. At number 4, I've got a classic. It's the Amityville Horror. This one is a classic for a reason. It's very, very well done. It's very frightening. It, for the longest time, was considered to be based on a true story. We now know that that is not true, or at least it's not nearly as true as it was believed to have been at the time. I know some of you are going to hate on me in the comments for that, but I'm just telling you the truth. It's not based on a true story, but it was believed to be for a really long time, and that made it even scarier. There's a whole bunch of sequels. There's a very good remake, believe it or not, with Ryan Reynolds, but the original is available on Amazon Prime, and the only reason I think this one doesn't get more credit is because it really sort of plays up with movies like The Exorcist and some other classics that came out of the 70s, and because it's not quite as good as those masterpieces, it sort of gets forgotten about a little bit, but it's in the same ballpark at least, so I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you've never seen it. At number 3, I've got another really funny little gem that I know a lot of people have missed, called I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. Now, this one is about as much of a horror movie as is Shaun of the Dead, but this one is about vampires. It is, just like in the title, it is super bloody, but it's also super fun. I would say this one's really kind of a combination of Super Troopers and Shaun of the Dead, in the sense that it's this bloody, cool sort of genre flick, but then it's also got a comedy crew in it that's got some really good bits and stuff that just reminded me a little bit of Super Troopers for some reason. The girl from Birdemic is one of the main characters in it, so it's got a little bit meta in the sense that it kind of knows it's this cheesy movie, but it is a lot of fun. It's one of those good little genre picks that horror fans will love it, even though it's not particularly a scary movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it has so much fun with the genre and has little winks and nods all over the place. So if you're kind of a die-hard horror fan and it's been a while since you've watched one that really made you laugh, definitely check out I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. My number 2 pick is actually another Dan Curtis directed movie starring Karen Black. This is a really cool 70s horror haunted house movie that nobody ever talks about. I never hear anyone talk about this one. It's on my list higher than Amityville Horror for a reason. It's really, really just a fantastic little haunted house movie. If you've never seen it, and I know a lot of people haven't, I can't recommend it enough, but I do have to say it is a very slow burn, and it is not going to really pick up until the last third or so, possibly even the last 30 minutes. Now, the rest of it is interesting, and it all builds towards something, but my first time watching it, I'm like, I don't know, this one's kind of not grabbing me, and then once it grabbed me late, but once it grabbed me, I really, really liked it, and by the time I got to the end, it was like a newfound favorite of mine. But if you've never seen this movie and you consider yourself a horror movie nut, you need to make this one the first one that you watch. And then at number 1, I've got Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma. It's just a real masterpiece of horror. It's one of the better Stephen King adaptations. There's a reason it's number 1 on the list. I gotta say, honestly, it's not even my personal favorite of the ones on this list, but I can't put anything else above it. It really is that good. It's got so many incredible elements to it. It's got, you know, so much subtext about bullying, about what would happen if someone actually had supernatural powers, like the horrors that might ensue. There's so many little interesting elements to this one. It really, really is just incredible. But that said, let me know which of these you will be watching in the comments below. I will read those comments. I might respond to you, but I will keep making episodes like this one as long as you keep watching them. But thanks for watching this episode, and you will see me next time.